stories only God could write, true testimonies of faith, miracles, revelations, life-changing encounters, the missionary, and the power of God in action. Get ready to be moved, to be inspired, and to renew your hope and your faith. How much heartbreak can one soul absorb before it simply shatters? We often believe the greatest destruction comes from a storm or a disaster. But sometimes, the worst devastation is caused by the person sleeping beside you. This is the story of Clara, a woman who lost everything, not in a robbery, but in a betrayal that was years in the making. And it's the story of how a simple missionary used her faith to guide Clara toward a miracle that was waiting for her all along. Meet Clara Hayes. She's 38 years old, and a year ago, she had the perfect life in Seattle, a beautiful custom-built home, a successful career in digital marketing, and a husband she adored, James. She was a woman of routine, stability, and quiet confidence. Her greatest fear was not succeeding, but that fear felt trivial when the real disaster struck. The betrayal wasn't just James's affair with his colleague, it was the calculated financial fraud he committed to fund it. He liquidated their shared accounts, mortgaged their home without her knowledge, and left her not just heartbroken, but financially ruined and legally entangled. Clara's world didn't just collapse, it was demolished with cruel precision. She fled the high-stress, high-cost environment of Seattle, seeking refuge and anonymity in the quieter, greener city of Boise, Idaho. But the pain followed her. She now lives in a cramped, dark apartment above a laundromat and works a minimum-wage job as a data entry clerk. She spends her nights staring at the ceiling, feeling an immense, crushing spiritual emptiness. She is a woman destroyed, bitter, and entirely alone, convinced that she has nothing left to offer the world. Clara's problem is the definition of rock bottom. She has received the final devastating letter from the court. She is personally liable for a portion of James's fraudulent debt, and her few remaining savings are about to be seized. She has exactly 7 days before her bank account hits zero. She has no family support, no friends in Boise, and zero faith left in God or humanity. She is, quite literally, planning how to sell her last possessions just to pay the next month's rent. She feels like a ship sinking in slow motion. On a particularly bleak afternoon, needing to sell a small box of unused books, Clara reluctantly visited the Cornerstone Community Thrift Store. It was run by a small local church, and behind the counter stood Sister Ruth. Ruth is in her early 60s, retired, with a kind, wrinkled face and a quiet presence. She wears simple, practical clothes, and her signature delicate lace veil neatly pinned to her hair, marking her calling as a missionary. Clara, cynical and sharp, tried to hurry the transaction. "Just give me $20 for the box, please." "I don't need a receipt." Sister Ruth looked at the books, then looked up at Clara. She didn't look at her clothes or her address. She looked deep into her eyes. "You don't need $20, dear," Ruth said, her voice soft but firm. "You need a miracle. And you are here because God sent you." Clara laughed, a short, bitter sound. "If your God sent me, it was for the cruel punchline. Please, just the $20? Sister Ruth ignored the cash register. She leaned forward, placing a hand gently over Clara's trembling hands, resting on the counter. "I see the betrayal, I see the debt, and I see the shame," Ruth whispered, her eyes full of empathy. "The number 7. 7 days. That's the deadline, isn't it? If you trust me, I can help you survive these 7 days." Clara pulled her hands back, her heart pounding. How could this stranger know about the 7 days? About the debt? "Who are you?" Clara demanded. Sister Ruth simply smiled, a powerful, serene smile. "I am a messenger, and the message is this: you cannot buy your freedom. You have to give your way out. Tomorrow, you will take that $20 and you will give it to someone who needs it more than you do. You will make yourself completely vulnerable to God's provision. And then you will come back here and I will give you a job." Clara stared at the missionary, horrified. Give away her last life raft? It was utterly insane. If she followed this woman's advice, she would officially have $0 and 7 days until disaster. But looking into Ruth's knowing eyes, Clara felt the first flicker of something other than despair, an intense, terrifying curiosity. Could this be the final test or the first step of her new journey? The next day, Clara was paralyzed. The $20 was her safety net, however thin. But the memory of Sister Ruth's gaze, the specificity of her knowledge, haunted her. Driven by a desperate, illogical impulse, Clara walked downtown. She saw a young mother sitting on the curb, nursing a baby and counting spare change. With a deep breath and a whispered prayer that felt rusty on her tongue, Clara pressed the $20 into the woman's hand. She felt the sickening drop of having nothing left. She returned to the Cornerstone thrift that afternoon, hollow-eyed. Sister Ruth, wearing her delicate lace veil, was waiting. She didn't ask if Clara did it. She simply nodded. Good. Now the old is gone and the new can come, Sister Ruth explained the job. The church owned an old, beautiful property on the outskirts of Boise, a sprawling estate that had been neglected for years. They were preparing to sell it, but needed someone meticulous to organize the thousands of boxes of antique records, correspondence, and legal documents left by the previous owner. The pay was meager, but it came with a small private guest cottage on the property. Clara reluctantly accepted. She moved her few belongings into the dusty, quiet cottage. The work was solitary, physical, and mentally draining. She was surrounded by the ghosts of a wealthy, forgotten life. As Clara sorted through the documents of the previous owner, a sense of irony settled over her. She was sorting out a dead man's financial mess while her own life was a wreck. The solitude became a prison for her mind. The memories of James, her betrayer, flooded back. She remembered the day she found the hidden email, the affectionate one to his mistress, detailing their secret future. Then came the bank statements, the evidence of the fraud. The worst memory was the cold, flat tone of James's voice when she confronted him. I needed stability, Clara. You were always too emotional. She understood the market. That phrase, she understood the market, was what truly destroyed her. He saw their life as an asset and her love as a liability. The betrayal was complete, financial, emotional, and intellectual. This daily sorting process became a form of therapy. Clara cried over the old letters, recognizing the universal themes of trust and ruin. She realized her pain was not unique. It was simply the human condition amplified by cruelty. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the property began to affect her. The neglect was overwhelming, but the beauty was still there. Old rose bushes fighting to bloom, a magnificent oak tree that dominated the landscape, and the original, beautiful architecture of the main house. Clara started doing small, unscheduled tasks, pruning a rose bush, wiping the dust from a sun-drenched window. She wasn't just cleaning. She was tending to something that mirrored her own soul. Broken, but yearning for revival. Sister Ruth visited weekly, always bringing a simple meal and offering quiet encouragement. She never preached. She simply spoke of God's providence. You are planting seeds, Clara, she would say, adjusting her lace veil. You are tending the soil. God is preparing the harvest. One afternoon, while sorting a heavy, leather-bound box labeled Deeds and Trusts, Clara found a document, the original deed to the entire estate, dating back to 1952. Attached to it was a fragile, yellowed handwritten note. The note was from the original owner, a kind, eccentric businessman. It spoke of a redemption trust, dedicated to the descendants of a specific family who had lost everything in the 1929 market crash. A family the original owner felt he had wronged Clara didn't recognize. The family name on the note, but attached to the note was a small, tattered family Bible. She opened the Bible, and inside the cover, written in elegant script, were the names of the family, the specific descendants who were to benefit from the redemption trust. Clara felt the hair stand up on the back of her neck. She read the names, tracing the lineage down 3 generations. The last name written in the book, listed as the final living descendant, was Hayes. Her maiden name, a profound, staggering revelation slammed into her. This magnificent, neglected estate and the redemption trust associated with it was tied directly to her family history. The miracle wasn't coming in a paycheck. It was sitting in a dusty box waiting for her to find it. Clara, trembling, rushed to call Sister Ruth. The missionary arrived at the estate the next morning, wearing her delicate lace veil and holding a simple coffee thermos. Clara spread the documents, the original deed, the redemption trust terms, and the tattered family Bible on the dusty dining table. Sister Ruth smiled, a knowing, triumphant smile. I knew God had a purpose for bringing you to Boise, Clara, but I didn't know the specifics. This estate, it belongs to your family. The redemption trust was set up to restore the descendants of those ruined by the crash decades ago. You lost everything due to one man's greed, but God had already secured your escape through the providence of an ancestor. The lawyer confirmed it. The estate, estimated to be worth millions, belonged to Clara Hayes. The miracle wasn't just a financial windfall, it was a profound act of divine timing. God had set up her healing and provision long before James's betrayal, using James's own selfish actions as the catalyst to drive her directly to her inheritance in Boise. She had to lose everything false to receive everything real. Clara broke down, not in tears of grief, but in overwhelming, uncontrollable joy and shame. "I called out to God with bitterness, Ruth," she sobbed. "I told him he abandoned me, but he was here the entire time. He was just waiting for me to clean up the mess so I could see the deed." The irony of the situation was the final piece of her emotional healing. James had stolen her stability, but his actions forced her to the exact place where her true permanent stability had been waiting in a dusty box. She forgave James instantly, not out of Christian duty, but because he was no longer relevant. Her life wasn't defined by his betrayal. It was defined by her destiny. Clara, now the legitimate owner of the magnificent estate, didn't move into the main house immediately. She stayed in the small cottage for a month, finishing the work she was hired to do, recognizing the dignity of the labor that preceded the miracle. She realized her new life wasn't about revenge or luxury. It was about purpose. She decided to sell a portion of the land to settle the remaining fraudulent debts, and she dedicated the main estate to a new vision. Clara and Sister Ruth, now partners in ministry, converted the forgotten estate into the Hayes Restoration Center, a beautiful, peaceful retreat dedicated to helping women recover from financial and emotional devastation, just like the one she had experienced. Clara took her digital marketing skills and channeled them into fundraising and advocacy. She realized her destruction was merely the process by which God prepared her for her greatest work. The house that had sheltered a forgotten family's history now became a beacon of hope for hundreds of broken women. Clara, the woman destroyed by betrayal, found her true self and her ultimate purpose in the very act of cleaning up someone else's mess. Her final message is always this: sometimes the hardest heartbreak is simply God clearing the ground so he can build something magnificent. Don't be afraid of the ruins. Your purpose is often hidden inside the dust. What ruin are you afraid of today? The miracle is waiting for you on the other side of your fear. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next powerful story of healing and restoration.